Home Health by TODD. FEATHERSNew. Hampshire Union Leader May 5, 2018, 8:46 p.m. A deer tick is not much bigger than the head of a pencil. David Lane, Union Leader. A tiny deer tick under the head of a pencil. David Lane, Union Leader. Small as the tip of a pencil. Tick nymphs will emerge this week and they'll bring with them an unsavory melange of diseases. At just a millimeter long, young black-legged ticks are harder to spot than adults, making May one of the most dangerous times of year for tick-borne illnesses like Lyme disease, anaplasmosis, and babesiosis, afflictions that are only becoming more common, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Reported human cases of vector-borne diseases, those transmitted primarily by ticks and mosquitoes, more than tripled between 2004 and 2016, according to a CDC report released last week. New Hampshire had the sixth fewest cases of mosquito-borne disease, with 173 over the 12 years, but the 10th most instances of tick-borne illness, with 13,710. Pennsylvania was first with 73,610. Despite the steady increase, public health agencies and individuals still rely on many of the same techniques to ward off pests that they have for years. There are some promising, and potentially game-changing, advances on the horizon, though the vaccine is obviously the showstopper, said Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, which is currently running a Phase 1 clinical trial of AGSV, an inoculation that could potentially be effective against multiple pathogens mosquitoes carry. The trial is scheduled to conclude this summer. AGSV and several other experimental vaccines under development take a different approach to vector-borne diseases than previous, unsuccessful attempts. Rather than activating antibodies against a particular pathogen, such as Lyme disease, they turn the body's immune system against the saliva of ticks and mosquitoes. If successful, one shot could protect against all the viruses and bacteria one pest carries, rather than picking them off one at a time and at a greater cost of development. There are currently no human vaccines for many of the most troublesome vector-borne diseases. Previous attempts, such as a Lyme disease vaccine sold by drug company SmithKline Beecham in the 1990s, have proved either unsafe or ineffective. Development has been further stalled because vector-borne disease vaccines are not seen as the most profitable of potential products. That's been one of the challenges for Thomas Mather, an entomologist and tick expert with the University of Rhode Island, who has been working on a tick saliva vaccine for several years. It showed promise when tested in mice, he said, but has a long way to go to market. We haven't been able to get too much farther, Mather said. We've been searching for the right protein in the saliva and for money, but I'm very bullish about this, he added. I think it's an area that's worth investment in. In the meantime, much of the effort to prevent the spread of vector-borne diseases is focused on education, particularly in schools, and controlling the carriers. The increase noted by the CDC has several causes. Changing climates mean that pests can flourish in places they previously couldn't, and a more connected world means that it's harder to prevent diseases like West Nile and chikungunya, neither of which existed in the U.S. 20 years ago, from spreading globally. In New Hampshire, the problems have been exacerbated by the evolving way residents interact with the land. People used to hunt more deer and clear-cut more land for farms, reducing their chances of encountering an infected tick, State Public Health Veterinarian Drive. Abigail Matthewson said, the state doesn't fund or organize mosquito control and only 34 municipalities have taken it upon themselves to engage in coordinated mosquito control efforts, she said. Tick control is even less thorough. We receive no funding at all from the state of New Hampshire to do anything regarding tick-borne disease or mosquito-borne disease prevention or surveillance, Matthewson said, adding, for tick surveillance and control, that really is on an individual basis as far as we've been able to determine. I haven't heard of any municipalities that go out and do coordinated tick control. There are chemical and biological sprays that can kill ticks and mosquitoes, and tools like mouse boxes and deer bait stations, which attract the animals into an area where they rub up against pesticides that kill any ticks on their body, but they come with challenges. Sprays may have to be applied multiple times a year to account for different disease life cycles, and pesticide stations can only affect a portion of the tick-bearing animal population. The cutting edge of vector control is genetic modification. The British company Oxitec has released mosquitoes with altered genes that make them infertile, significantly reducing overall populations. The FDA has cleared the way for initial testing in Florida. Closer to home, MIT researcher Kevin S. Velt has proposed releasing tens of thousands of mice modified to be immune to Lyme disease on Nantucket. Those propositions have met resistance from residents and officials concerned about unintended consequences, or the sudden appearance of a lot of mice. When we talk about the genetic options, those raise red flags in the minds of many regulators and residents, said Alan Eaton, an entomologist who recently retired from the University of New Hampshire. As a result, they're moving very slowly. The silver lining to this steady increase in reported vector-borne disease cases may be that companies, seeing a potential profit, are more inclined to develop high-tech solutions like vaccines and genetic modification. In the meantime, those on the front lines of pest control still emphasize the basics: remove standing water, landscape your lawn to reduce tick habitats, wear clothing that covers your skin, and check yourself for ticks. Public Safety Health Animals Outdoors Health Newsletters. More articles. Weekend Top 10 Planner, May 4 to 6, 2018. It's May. It sure is hard to believe, but it does seem that Mother Nature ripped spring from right under our feet. We aren't sure what happened to mud season, but we do know that the weather is. Children's Day, Portsmouth, Sunday, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, Friday to Saturday, 8 p.m., Sunday, 2 p.m. Sunday, 7